we are looking at some details of the eyeball. And when we talk about the eyeball, you will see that there is the first topic, the developing eyeball. You have to look at the development of the eyeball first. And as you do so, there's a question asking, ciliaris muscle is derived from. What do you think is the answer? Understand that ciliaris muscle will be mesoderm, but this is the mesoderm of the eyeball, so secondary mesoderm. So what is your answer? Understand that anterolateral area of the head neck region is mostly neural crest cell. So eyeball is mostly neural crest cell. There is only a little bit of secondary mesoderm. Are you trying to say the answer to this question is neural crest cell? Yes, secondary mesenchyme. But there is more to this question which we have to discuss. You have to discuss 5 derivative of neural plate ectoderm now, and 2 derivative of surface ectoderm. And remember that when somebody writes mesoderm, it is understood that it is primary mesoderm. So if somebody writes mesoderm, it is understood that it is primary mesoderm. Yeah, can be secondary also, but if somebody writes mesoderm, then it is understood that it is primary mesoderm. It can be secondary also, but you have to presume that it is primary. So you mean to say this is the best answer? Yes. Can you tell me the 5 derivative of neural plate ectoderm then? Yeah, that's what we'll do now, and also we'll discuss the surface ectoderm. 2 derivatives. Okay, let's do that now by drawing a flow diagram. And if you remember, we have discussed about epiblast earlier. We said epiblast will give 3 germ layers, and then it will also give the 4th germ layer. Who is the 4th germ layer? The neural crest cell, the 4th germ layer. So it is understood that recently it is mentioned that neural crest cell is the 4th germ layer, maybe coming directly from the epiblast. Otherwise, epiblast would have given 3 germ layer by gastrulation. We want to see that who is contributing to the eyeball. You will see that enoderm gives nothing to the eyeball. Mesoderm, when you write, it is understood that it is primary mesoderm, so it is negligible to the eye, almost negligible, though there is some contribution, but almost negligible. So you are telling that enoderm give nothing to the eyeball? No. And mesoderm, which is primary mesoderm, is negligible contribution to eyeball? Yes. But when you talk about the ectoderm, ectoderm is definitely contributing to eyeball. Actually, ectoderm is 2 types we have discussed. There will be neural plate ectoderm and there is a surface ectoderm. So what about the neural plate ectoderm and the surface ectoderm? What are they contributing to the eyeball? Ectoderm will give you 7 things to remember, and out of that 5 neural plate ectoderm and 2 surface ectoderm. So we have to remember 7 derivative of the ectoderm to the eyeball. Yes, because primary mesoderm is negligible and enoderm is nothing. And what about the neural crest cell then? Neural crest cell we'll discuss, but first you have to discuss the 5 derivative of neural plate ectoderm. So what are they? Let me tell you. Surface ectoderm will give you the surface epithelium of cornea, or the first layer of cornea. Cornea has 5 layers and it is giving first layer. So you're telling that the cornea has 5 layer and the first layer of cornea or surface epithelium of cornea is given by surface ectoderm. Yes. What else it is giving? It is also giving eye lens. Eye lens. So surface ectoderm will give eye lens and the surface epithelium of cornea. Yes. What is neural plate ectoderm giving? If you remember, neural plate ectoderm will form the nervous system, central nervous system. Yes, and it is going to form diencephalon. Diencephalon, part of the brain, yes. And diencephalon will grow into the eyeball. Do you remember forming 2 things? So neural plate ectoderm will form the central nervous system, will form the diencephalon part of brain, will grow into the eyeball to form 2 things. What are they? I think it was retina and the optic nerve. Yes, retina and the optic nerve. Now remember, retina and the optic nerve is formed by diencephalon, and diencephalon was actually giving some epithelium. Yeah, okay. What about that epithelium? That epithelium is further encroaching. Encroaching where? It is further encroaching upon 3 more things. So total 5 things. Yes, total 5 things. What are the 5 things given by neural plate ectoderm? See, neural plate ectoderm will give 5 things, and they are retina, optic nerve, and epithelium of what? Epithelium of the ciliary body, and epithelium of the iris, and that epithelium of the iris will give 2 muscles of iris. 2 muscles of iris. Are you talking about sphincter pupillae, dilator pupillae? Yeah, do you remember? Iris muscle, sphincter pupillae, dilator pupillae came from a plate. You remember? Are you talking about neural plate ectoderm? Yeah, do you remember? So neural plate ectoderm forms some muscles. Yes. Neural plate ectoderm form the iris muscle. Can we see all this in a diagram? Yes, diagram is coming. But remember, sphincter pupillae, dilator pupillae, the 2 smooth muscles of iris come from the epithelium. And that epithelium is also covering iris and ciliary body. So 5 derivative of the neural plate ectoderm and 2 derivative of the surface ectoderm. Now in the diagram form. But before you see the diagram form of all that, you have to understand. Earlier we used to believe that it is the neural crest cell coming from neuroectoderm, but this theory is no more valid. Why it is no more valid? See, earlier we used to think that it is the neural ectoderm. Earlier we used to believe that it is the neural ectoderm which is going to form neural crest cell, but that theory is no more valid. Why? Because it is now 4th germ layer, maybe coming from epiblast. So coming from epiblast, not from the neuroectoderm? No. Okay, fine. Then what is this 4th germ layer doing? It is giving us most of the mesoderm of the eyeball, secondary mesoderm. So it is going to form the secondary mesoderm of the eyeball? Yes, because we told primary mesoderm is negligible contribution to the eyeball. Eyeball is basically from secondary mesoderm, so it is basically from neural crest cell. Neural crest cell. Oh, like that? Yes, like that. Now, this is the basic idea you have to remember. The idea is very simple. If you know 7 derivative of ectoderm, almost all the answers should become neural crest cell in the development of eyeball. Somebody asking you development of eyeball, your answer should remain neural crest cell until somebody is asking you the 7 exceptions. What are the 7 exceptions? 5 from neural plate ectoderm and 2 from surface ectoderm. Okay, you are trying to say that if I know the 7 things here, whatever question comes beyond that, the answer should be neural crest cell? Yes. And if not found, then mesoderm, secondary mesoderm. Can we practice some questions regarding that? Yes, we'll do it, but at this moment, let us continue with the developing eyeball. As I told you, this is forebrain, and in the forebrain there is diencephalon, and the diencephalon is going to form the eyeball, retina and optic nerve. You are talking about some forebrain diencephalon here? Yes. This is going to form retina of the eyeball and optic nerve. Yes. Then what is surface ectoderm doing? Surface ectoderm give 2 things. And this will give 5 things. Yeah, 5 things. So this is the discussion. Yeah, that is the discussion. Okay, let us do the discussion then. See, diencephalon part of the brain will grow inside the eyeball to become retina and the optic nerve. So it is growing. First, it will form a sulcus. So this is groove. Yeah, groove, sulcus, doesn't matter. Optic sulcus. So first it will form optic sulcus, and then it will form the retina and the optic nerve. Retina and the optic nerve, how? Actually, first there is a sulcus, then there is optic vesicle, and then there is a optic cup. What is there? First there is optic groove or optic sulcus. After that there is an optic vesicle, and then there is an optic cup. And what is the optic cup doing? Optic cup will form retina here and optic nerve there. So that will be optic nerve there, yes, and this will be Retina of the eyeball? Yes, that is what. Retina and optic nerve. So what is the surface ectoderm doing? Surface ectoderm was actually on the outside, surface ectoderm on the surface, and it is giving us the eye lens. Not only it is giving us eye lens, but the first layer of cornea also. So eye lens and first layer of cornea coming from surface ectoderm. Can we draw some diagrams for this? Yeah, we'll do it now. You will see that these are the diagrams we are supposed to draw. What is this? See, this is the forebrain having telencephalon and diencephalon, and it is a diencephalon which is giving optic sulcus and optic vesicle and optic cup and the retina and the optic nerve. Oh, this is the retina and optic nerve, the two layers of retina, pigment layer and neural retina. Yes, actually. First, you have the forebrain, which is diencephalon part of forebrain, which is forming a sulcus, then vesicle, then a cup, and the cup will form the retina. There'll be optic nerve also. This is the diagram which we are supposed to draw. Let's do it. So, we are drawing the diagram now. Yes. What is this diagram about? This diagram is about the outer surface ectoderm and the inner neural ectoderm. So inner is neural ectoderm. Yes. Okay. Are you talking about neural plate ectoderm? Yes, neural plate ectoderm, no problem. Neural plate ectoderm. So what is neural plate ectoderm doing? It is forming the diencephalon part of the brain. This is the diencephalon part of the brain, forebrain. Okay, diencephalon part of forebrain. What is it doing? What it is doing, you see in the next part of the diagram that it is forming some sulcus on either side. It is forming some sulcus on the either side. Yes. What sulcus? It is called as the optic sulcus or optic groove. And what is this optic sulcus, optic groove covered by? It is covered by surface ectoderm. Covered by surface ectoderm. Then what is happening next after forming the optic sulcus? It will become optic vesicle. So can I see the optic vesicle now? Yeah, you can see. You tell that this is the diencephalon part of the brain and forming the optic vesicle on both sides. So it will form now optic vesicle. Yes, optic vesicle on both sides. And what is ectoderm doing? Ectoderm was actually stimulator now. Ectoderm was stimulator to form a lens placode. What is that? Lens placode. So you are telling that there is some optic vesicle which is stimulating the overlying ectoderm to form a lens placode. Yes. And what is the next thing? Next thing, you can see that it has already formed the two derivative, which is eye lens and the first layer of cornea. So this is the first layer of cornea and the eye lens. Yes, they have already formed. So you are telling that the surface ectoderm was stimulated to form the eye lens and first layer of cornea. Yes. Then what is happening to this optic vesicle, which is a neural plate ectoderm? That I'll tell you. It will become optic cup now. What it will become? It will become optic cup. You see, this is going to become optic cup. So that is going to become optic cup now. Yes. Actually, what you'll find is there is the optic cup and there is also the optic stalk. What is that? That is optic stalk. So there is some optic cup and optic stalk. Yes. What is this optic cup and optic stalk doing? You see here. What happens is that there will be now one inner neural layer and outer pigment layer. You mean to say optic cup has outer pigment layer and inner neural layer? Yes, it will form the two layers of retina. Oh, you mean to say this is retina developing now? Yes, optic cup will form the retina, two layers. If you say optic cup is going to form the retina, two layers, then what is the inner layer of retina? It is neural layer, inner is neural. And what is the outer layer of retina? That is outer is pigment layer. And what the optic stalk will form? Optic stalk will form the optic nerve. Optic stalk will form the optic nerve. So this is optic stalk which is forming optic nerve. Yes. And this is optic cup which is forming the retina, two layers. Right. Okay, fine. Then let us proceed further. And as you proceed further, you will see that we have discussed that this will be inner neural layer of retina. Yes. And that will be outer pigment layer of retina. Yes. And this will be the optic nerve coming from the optic stalk. Yes. Then I think we got this eye lens and the first layer of the cornea from the surface ectoderm. Yes, that's correct. Otherwise, whatever mesoderm is here, that would have come from neural crest cell, secondary mesoderm. So otherwise, whatever mesoderm is here would have come from the neural crest cell, secondary mesoderm. Yes. Even the other layers of cornea. Other layers of cornea means the other 4 layers of cornea. Yes. The 4 layers of cornea, almost entire cornea is from neural crest cell. Except the first layer, because first layer of cornea and eye lens is from surface ectoderm. Rest of the cornea and all the mesoderm is from neural crest cell derived secondary mesenchyme. Then can we see this diagram magnified? Yes, you see the magnified diagram and tell. If we are talking about the inner neural layer of retina, or maybe the outer pigment layer of retina, maybe the outer pigment layer of retina, that would have come from the optic cup. But if you're talking about the optic nerve here, then it would have come from the optic stalk. That would have come from the optic stalk. And if you are now talking further about the eye lens or the first layer of cornea, say this is the eye lens and that is the first layer of cornea here, then that would have come from the surface ectoderm. This is what we wanted to know. But then there are things beyond that, like you see here, we are telling. If it is optic nerve, it is coming from optic stalk. If it is inner neural or outer pigment layer of retina, it would have come from the optic cup. But then the epithelium, which is on the retina, which is neural retina, is now changing into non-neural at a point which is called as ora serrata. So what is happening at ora serrata? At ora serrata, what happens is that neural epithelium of this neural plate ectoderm is becoming non-neural. So you mean to say after this there will be non-neural and pigment layer? Yes, that is the point. Non-neural and the pigment layer, they will go further, and then they are going to cover what is called as the ciliary body and the iris. So you are telling that there is some ciliary body and iris now. Yes, it is here, iris and ciliary body. Understand. The neural retina will stop at the ora serrata. After that, it is non-neural epithelium, which is covering the ciliary body and the iris. Along with that, there is the pigment epithelium also, double layer of epithelium. Yes, there is double layer of epithelium all the time. This was double layer of epithelium, and this is also double layer of epithelium. And then also remember that when the double layer of epithelium came on ciliary body and the iris, in the iris, that epithelium was forming 2 muscles which are called as the sphincter pupillae and the dilator pupillae. So you are trying to say that the sphincter pupillae, dilator pupillae muscle, they came from the epithelium only? Yes. Now can you tell me the 5 derivative of neural plate ectoderm? The 5 derivative of neural plate ectoderm are: number 1, optic nerve, and number 2, the retina, and number 3, the epithelium on ciliary body, and number 4, epithelium on iris, and number 5, the muscles of iris. Neural plate ectoderm giving us 5 derivative. Number 1, optic nerve. Number 2, retina. Number 3, double epithelium on the ciliary body. Number 4, double epithelium on the iris. Number 5, the 2 muscles of iris which are sphincter and dilator pupillae. Then what about the connective tissue of the iris? What about the connective tissue of the ciliary body? Now maybe connective tissue of iris or connective tissue of ciliary body, Or maybe it is connective tissue of the eyeball, maybe sclera, or maybe choroid, or maybe the dura-mater, whatever. It is all from the neural crest cell derived secondary mesenchyme. So maybe it is the connective tissue of iris, connective tissue of ciliary body, connective tissue of the posterior area, maybe it is sclera or choroid, or maybe it is the dura-mater. Everything is from the secondary mesoderm, neural crest cell. Even all layers of cornea except one. So all the 5 layer, no, 4 layers, because the first layer of cornea, where is it from? The first layer of cornea is from surface ectoderm, eye lens is from surface ectoderm. So remember this way, surface ectoderm is forming the first layer of cornea and eye lens, and neural plate ectoderm giving you 5 things, and everything else is from neural crest cell. You mean to say 4 layers of cornea, connective tissue of ciliary body iris, and the connective tissue of the posterior segments of the eyeball? Yes, all that. Even the vitreous? Yeah, vitreous. Vitreous has many derivation, but vitreous is also formed by neural crest cell. So vitreous is also formed by neural crest cell. Are there any other derivation? Yeah, it can come from other sources also, but neural crest cell also form the vitreous. If you say so, can we revise it here? Yes, let us revise it. You have to understand. When the diencephalon part of the brain was growing into the eyeball, it will form the optic cup and optic stalk. And an optic cup will form the double layer retina. And what the optic stalk will become? It will become the optic nerve. This is all from the neural plate ectoderm. So we want to see what is neural plate ectoderm doing in addition to retina and optic nerve. Neural plate ectoderm not only give you retina and the optic nerve, but it will also give 3 more things. What are the 3 more things? Let us magnify and see what are the 3 more things it is giving. Actually, the epithelium, double epithelium. That double epithelium was further going ahead, but this was ora serrata. At the ora serrata, the neural epithelium will stop and continue as non-neural epithelium. And then it will form epithelium of the ciliary body and epithelium of the iris. And it will also form the 2 muscles of iris, which are called sphincter pupillae and dilator pupillae in the iris. So you are trying to say that there are non-neural epithelium and pigment epithelium here? Yes. Covering the iris ciliary body there? Yes. That's the point. So can we see the 5 derivative of neural plate ectoderm again? That is the optic nerve, 1, and retina, 2, and the epithelium of ciliary body, 3, and epithelium of iris, 4, and muscle of iris, 5 derivative. And what about the surface ectoderm? Surface ectoderm will form the eye lens and first layer of cornea. So first layer of cornea and eye lens is from surface ectoderm, that blue color thing. And what about the rest of the cornea? Say corneal endothelium 5th layer is a question. If you say corneal endothelium 5th layer is a question, any layer of cornea actually is from neural crest cell except the first layer. And not only the cornea, the neural crest cell would have formed what is called as the sclera, and also, connective tissue of the iris and connective tissue of the ciliary body, or connective tissue of the eyeball. Maybe it is choroid, or maybe it is vitreous body, maybe it is dura-mater, whatever. Just remember 7 things actually. 5 things which are neural plate ectoderm, 2 things which are surface ectoderm. Beyond that, whatever question comes, you keep answering it as a neural crest cell. Maybe connective tissue of the iris ciliary body, connective tissue of the sclera, or choroid, or dura, whatever. It is neural crest cell derived secondary mesoderm. So, if you say so, let us make the diagram ourselves. And your diagram is showing you optic cup and optic stalk. When you say it is optic cup and optic stalk, we already have known that if it was the optic stalk, then optic stalk would have formed the optic nerve. And if it was the optic cup, then optic cup would have formed the 2 layers of retina. Maybe inner neural layer or maybe outer pigment layer. So maybe inner neural layer or outer pigment layer, both would have come from the optic cup. Now this double layer of epithelium continues anterior, and as the epithelium was continuing anterior, you will see that it would have become non-neural. And where it is becoming non-neural, that was something called ora serrata. At the ora serrata, the neural epithelium become non-neural. And then what is it covering? It is covering two bodies here. One is called as the ciliary body, and the other is called as the iris. And then this epithelium is also forming the two muscles of iris, which are called as the sphincter pupillae and dilator pupillae. So now you can tell me 5 things which came from the neural plate ectoderm. They are: number one, that is the optic nerve. Number 2, it is the retina. And number 3, it is the epithelium on the ciliary body. And number four, it is the epithelium on the iris. And number five, it is the muscles of the iris. Now, once you have told about all that, you have to understand that the surface ectoderm gave 2 things. And what was surface ectoderm giving 2 things? There was this eye lens and the first layer of cornea. Now, if you say only the first layer of cornea, then what about the other layers of cornea? So, surface ectoderm gave you 2 things, that is eye lens and the first layer of cornea, because rest of the cornea, all the other layers of cornea, if you are talking about them, say the 4 layers of cornea, and maybe then it is the, maybe you are now talking about the connective tissue of the iris, connective tissue of the ciliary body, or connective tissue of the posterior region. Maybe it is connective tissue of everything. So connective tissue would have come from secondary mesenchyme, would have come from the neural crest cell. So it is the neural crest cell which will form the connective tissue of. Maybe it is the iris, or maybe the ciliary body, or maybe it is the sclera, or maybe it is the choroid, or maybe it is the dura, or maybe it is a vitreous, or whatever. Keep answering it as neural crest cell. So neural crest cell is giving us what is called as secondary mesenchyme, and forming connective tissue in all of this region, and also forming 4 layers of cornea, maybe connective tissue of the iris body, or the sclera, or choroid, or dura, or vitreous. This is how you remember. Or the other way is, remember the 5 derivative of the neural plate ectoderm and 2 derivative of surface ectoderm, and beyond that everything answer should become neural crest cell. This is one basics which we should be aware of. So let us come back to this question. It was asking ciliaris muscle. What do you think is the answer? But sir, we have already attempted the question. Yes, you have, but tell me the answer again. Ciliaris is this answer. Yeah, what will you do if I remove it? You mean to say this option is missing? Yes, what will you do? Then I think I know the 5 derivative of neural plate ectoderm. I know the 2 derivative of surface ectoderm. Then I think the answer should be mesoderm. Yes, but is it primary mesoderm or secondary mesoderm? Must be secondary mesoderm, which would have come from neural crest cell. So you are telling that this question is double answer. Yes, but A is better than D. A is better than D. And also remember that 5 derivative of the neural plate ectoderm and 2 derivative of surface ectoderm. What are the 5 derivative then? What is the answer to this question? Corneal endothelium. If you are talking about corneal endothelium, it is the 5th layer of cornea. What do you think? 5th layer of cornea, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, whichever layer. All the layers of cornea from neural crest cell except the first. Why? Where is first coming from? Surface ectoderm. This is the answer. If that is the answer, then tell me the other derivative of surface ectoderm. First layer of cornea and eye lens. Then can you tell me the 5 derivatives of neural plate ectoderm? 5 derivative of neural plate ectoderm. I'll tell you in a diagram. Let us revise. So tell me, they will be number 1, the optic nerve, and number 2, the retina, and number 3, epithelium of ciliary body, and number 4, epithelium of iris, and number 5, the muscles of iris, Then the two layers of surface ectoderm, that is the first layer of cornea and eye lens. And what is beyond that? Beyond that is everything. Neural crest cell. Sir, what about this conjunctiva and the tarsal gland? Anything beyond that? It is all outside surface ectoderm. It is all surface ectoderm. So conjunctiva and tarsal gland and lacrimal gland, whatever is outside is surface ectoderm. Of course, everything else is surface ectoderm. We were not talking about those things. We were talking about eyeball. I have discussed the development of eyeball here, not the tarsal gland or lacrimal gland, but they are from surface ectoderm. They are outside. Now we are going to talk about some details of the optic nerve. Tell me which order neuron is optic nerve? First order, second order, or third order? Do you know optic pathway is also 4 order neuron pathway like the auditory pathway. Auditory pathway is 4 order neuron pathway, and visual pathway is also 4 order neuron. How come? How come it is 4 order? See here. First we talk about the developing optic nerve. Then I will tell you that it's a misnomer. Optic nerve is a misnomer? Yes. How? Let us see. You see, this is the diencephalon part of the brain. Yes. It is growing into the eyeball. Okay. And forming the retina optic nerve. Yeah, that I know. And this retina is a part of the CNS. Retina is a part of CNS. Yeah, okay. Extension of diencephalon part of brain. Retina is a part of CNS. Fine. Then in the retina, I got a neuron which is called as ganglion cell neuron. And what is this ganglion cell neuron in the retina doing? It is collecting visual information. And where is it taking that visual information towards? It is taking visual information towards the brain. And what is it axons making? Those axons are making the optic nerve. Tell me about the optic nerve now. It's a part of CNS. Is it a nerve? You are telling diencephalon part of the brain grows into eyeball to become retina, an optic nerve? Yes. And retina is a part of CNS. Of course, it is a part of CNS. It has a neuron body which is called as ganglion cell neuron, which is collecting visual information. And that visual information is going towards the brain. Is some collection of axons. This is optic nerve. So optic nerve is a part of CNS. It's a CNS tract. And because optic nerve is a CNS tract, it is myelinated by oligodendrocyte. It is not myelinated by Schwann cell. And because it is not myelinated by Schwann cell, if it is damaged, it will never regenerate. Why the optic nerve will never regenerate if damaged? Because for generation, I need Schwann cell sheath, and it does not have the Schwann cell sheath. Understand? Optic nerve is not a true nerve. It is a CNS tract. CNS tract. And because optic nerve is not a true nerve and a CNS tract, it is myelinated by oligodendrocyte, not the Schwann cell. So if Schwann cell is not myelinating, the Schwann cell sheath is missing. And because Schwann cell sheath is missing, once the optic nerve is damaged, it cannot regenerate. It never regenerates. One more thing. You know about multiple sclerosis, which is a problem of CNS myelination. It is a problem of the oligodendrocyte, but it will not affect the Schwann cell. So peripheral nerves are spared. Why the peripheral nerves are spared? Because they are myelinated by Schwann cell. So you're telling multiple sclerosis is a problem of the CNS myelination and is a problem of oligodendrocyte? Yes. Not a problem of Schwann cell? No. So peripheral nerves are myelinated by Schwann cell? Yes. So they will be spared means they're working. Yes, they are spared, they are working. But understand, optic nerve cannot escape this injury. Why optic nerve cannot escape the injury? Because it is not a peripheral nerve. It is a CNS tract. So it will be involved. Understand? Optic nerve cannot escape the injury of multiple sclerosis because it is myelinated by oligodendrocyte. That's why. It is not a peripheral nerve. It's a CNS tract. Optic nerve is definitely going to get involved in multiple sclerosis. and once damaged, it cannot regenerate. So it proves that it is not a true nerve, it's a CNS tract. Now I was asking you, optic nerve is which order neuron? Tell me. Have you found out? It's a controversy actually. It's a controversy. Tell me the answer. See, when the light is coming, who will receive the light? When the light is coming to retina, the light will be received by rods and cones. And rods and cones are the first order neuron, synapsing with second order neuron, which is bipolar. And bipolar is synapsing with third order neuron, which is ganglion cell neuron. So who is the first order? Let us magnify the diagram here. See, the light is incident on the rod and cones. They are the first order neuron. And where are they synapsing? These are the nuclei of rod and cones in the retina. So where are they synapsing? In the second order neuron, which nuclei are here, this is second order neuron. And where are the second order neuron bipolar synapsing? In the third order neuron. These are the nuclei. So you are telling that they are third order, and their axons will make the optic nerve. Are you trying to say optic nerve is third order neuron? Yes, that is the point. There are some mistakes in ophthalmology and physiology books, so be careful. This is something latest which might be missing in ophthalmology physiology book, and you should be careful about this answer. Question is asking, optic nerve is which order neuron? Understand, rod and cones which receive the incident light is first order neuron and synapsing with the second order neuron. And who is second order neuron? That is the bipolar cell, synapsing with the third order neuron, which is the ganglion cell. And this ganglion cell, their axons are running as the optic nerve. So optic nerve is third order neuron. Remember this. And now we are going to talk about the details of the orbit. Actually, the boundaries of the orbit. Bony boundaries. You remember I told you, roof of orbit is 2 bones, and lateral wall is 2 bones, and floor is 3 bones, and medial wall is 4 bones. Do you remember? Can you tell me the names? These are the questions, they are coming. You have to remember. Let us look at the orbit magnified view. And we are magnifying the right orbit, front view. So it is a front view of the right orbit, and you can see some details now. As you do that, you will find that this is the actual skull bone there, and this is the schematic diagram, and you can see frontal bone, the roof, and lacrimal bone on the medial side, and zygomatic bone is not only the lateral wall but also floor. Zygomatic bone is lateral wall and floor. Lateral wall, you also have this greater wing of sphenoid, and the lesser wing of sphenoid is roof. Between the roof and lateral wall, you have the fissure, superior orbital fissure, and optic canal is opening in the lesser wing of the sphenoid, and maxilla bone is not only floor but also the medial wall of the orbit. Sir, we can't see nothing. What are you showing? You can't see nothing? No. Okay, let me magnify then. As I'm magnifying, you can see the details. What I'm telling you is, this is frontal bone on the roof. And who else is there? It is the lesser wing of sphenoid having an opening, which is called as optic canal. You remember optic canal is an opening in the lesser wing of sphenoid? So you're telling optic canal is opening in the lesser wing of sphenoid is forming the roof of the orbit, 2 bones at the roof of orbit. Yes, frontal and lesser wing of sphenoid. Then where is the greater wing of sphenoid? Greater wing of sphenoid is here, and along with that is the zygomatic bone, forming not only the lateral wall but also the floor. So L-shaped contribution by zygomatic bone? Yes, actually zygomatic bone has L-shaped contribution because it is contributing lateral wall of orbit and also the floor of the orbit. So what are the 2 bones in the lateral wall? The 2 bones are greater wing of sphenoid and zygomatic bone, 2 bones at the lateral wall. And what are the 3 bones at the floor? The 3 bones at the floor, one of them is zygomatic, and who is the other? Actually, you have to understand that maximum contribution is by maxilla bone, which is not only forming the floor, but also it is L-shaped. So since it is L-shaped, it will form the floor and the medial wall. You are telling that maxilla bone is floor and middle wall of the orbit. Yes. And who else is in the floor? Actually, you have seen two bones now. Maximum contribution by maxilla and some contribution by zygomatic, but there is one more bone contributing to the floor. And which bone? That is not shown here. We'll see it by drawing a diagram later. But can you tell me the four bones in the middle wall of orbit? If you say four bones in the middle wall of orbit, then the first one is of course maxilla. And what is behind the maxilla bone then? Behind the maxilla, I'll have lacrimal bone. And what is behind the lacrimal bone? It is the thin papery bone. Who is the thin papery bone? That is actually the ethmoid bone. And what is behind the ethmoid bone? Do you remember? It was the body of the sphenoid. Body of the sphenoid. So there are four bones in the medial wall of orbit, which are body of sphenoid, and in front of that ethmoid bone and lacrimal bone and maxilla bone. So let us discuss this again by looking at a schematic diagram. This is a schematic diagram we have to see. Yes, you can revise it again. You can see yourself. So what is this bone here? This is the ethmoid bone. And what is behind the ethmoid bone? Medial wall. That is the body of the sphenoid. If you say that is the body of the sphenoid, then what is in front of the ethmoid? In front of ethmoid, I have lacrimal bone. And what is in front of the lacrimal bone? That is the maxilla bone. So what is in front of the maxilla bone? What is in front of maxilla bone? Nothing. Four bones are there total. Oh, what are the four bones? There is maxilla bone, then lacrimal bone, then ethmoid bone, and the body of sphenoid, middle wall. And what is the lateral wall? Two bones. What are the two bones lateral wall? Actually, that is the greater wing of sphenoid. Yeah, okay, fine. Then it is the L-shaped bone. Who is the L-shaped bone? The L-shaped bone, you don't know? That is the zygomatic bone. Okay, zygomatic bone, L-shaped bone. I think it is forming the lateral wall and the floor also. Yes, lateral wall, floor also. L-shape. Maxilla is also L-shape. Yeah, it is L-shape. You see here, maxilla is also L-shape. And it is not only contributing to the middle wall, but also the floor. So it is floor and middle wall now. Yes, you can see yourself. You are telling maxilla bone is L-shape and forming the floor and the middle wall of the orbit, and the zygomatic is L-shape forming the lateral wall and the floor. Which is the third bone at the floor? One is the zygomatic bone, one is the maxilla bone, and now deeper there you can see this. What is this? That is a small piece of the palatine bone. Small piece of palatine. Yes, palatine. So what are the three bones at the floor? Small piece of palatine and the maxilla bone and the zygomatic bone. Where is the fissure? Which fissure? Inferior orbital fissure? Inferior orbital fissure. Inferior orbital fissure is lateral wall and floor junction. So inferior orbital fissure is the junction of the lateral wall and floor. Yes, you see. This is the lateral wall of the orbit, and this is the floor of the orbit, and this is the inferior orbital fissure. So you are telling that it is gap between the maxilla bone at the floor and the greater wing of sphenoid in the lateral wall of orbit? Yes. Can you tell me about superior orbital fissure, where it is? Superior orbital fissure is a gap between lesser wing, greater wing of sphenoid. If you say lesser wing, greater wing of sphenoid, then who is this here? This is lesser wing having an opening called optic canal. So this is lesser wing of sphenoid having opening optic canal. Yes, this is the lesser wing. Then this must be the frontal bone at the roof. Yes, that is the frontal bone at the roof. Two bones at the roof. One is the frontal bone and other is the lesser wing of sphenoid. And what is between lesser wing, greater wing? What is between lesser wing, greater wing is superior orbital fissure. And where is the optic canal? Optic canal is the opening in the lesser wing of sphenoid when the lesser wing of sphenoid was attaching to body of sphenoid. So lesser wing of sphenoid was attaching to body of sphenoid here. Yes, that is where you have the optic canal. Sir, again this diagram has become complicated. Yes, it has become. Don't worry, we'll draw it, then it will be simple, simplified diagram. But at this moment, you look at the middle wall once again. Look at this middle wall again. 1, 2, 3, and 4 bones. 1, 2, 3, 4 bones. Yes. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 bones we have seen now. No, you haven't seen. Actually, you have to discuss more. Do you remember we have discussed the front view of the orbit? Contributed by Sphenoid bone, the butterfly bone, sphenoid bone. Do you remember that? Let me revise it. What is the body of sphenoid contributing? Medial wall of orbit. And what is the lesser wing of sphenoid contributing? The lesser wing of sphenoid contribute roof. And what is the greater wing contributing? Greater wing contribute to the lateral wall. And what is between the lesser wing, greater wing? What is between lesser wing, greater wing is the superior orbital fissure. So remember the three contribution of the sphenoid bone. Sphenoid bone, if you remove the ethmoid, you get sphenoid. Remove the ethmoid. Nose bone. Remove the nose bone, ethmoid, then you get the sphenoid. This is sphenoid, front view. So you remove ethmoid, then you get sphenoid this way. Yes, and see. Medial wall of orbit is body of sphenoid. And roof of orbit is lesser wing of sphenoid. And lateral wall is greater wing of sphenoid, and between the roof and lateral wall, is the superior orbital fissure. Then where is inferior orbital fissure? Inferior orbital fissure is actually here. Where? It is at the junction of the lateral wall and the floor, which is not shown here. The inferior orbital fissure will be at the junction of lateral wall and the floor, which is maxilla bone. Maxilla bone here, greater wing of sphenoid there, and this will be the inferior orbital fissure. The location is there. So that orientation from the front side, yes. Now you have proper orientation for orbit. And once you have that orientation, let us look at the medial wall of the orbit then. Let us look at the medial wall of the orbit. You have to take a sagittal section and then remove the lateral wall of orbit. So we are taking a sagittal section and removing the lateral wall of orbit to see the medial wall of orbit. Yes. And tell me which bones. Which is the most anterior? Most anterior, I think it was the maxilla bone L shape. Yes, maxilla bone L shape, not only floor, but also the medial wall. Then what was behind the maxilla bone medially? It was the lacrimal bone. And what is behind the lacrimal bone? It was the ethmoid bone. And what is behind the ethmoid bone? It is the body of the sphenoid. Yes, body of sphenoid, correct. So this is the body of sphenoid, which is most posterior. That is the body of sphenoid, which is most posterior. Then you ethmoid, then you have the palatine, and then you have the maxilla bone, medial wall of the orbit. Now, once you have that orientation, let us draw the diagram ourselves. The boundaries, fissures of the right orbit. So this is going to be our diagram, and it's going to be a schematic diagram, and let's do it. Right orbit? Yes, right orbit. So this is the midline of the body. Yes. And this is the right orbit you are drawing. Yes, right orbit. This is the midline of the body. That is where you will have the nose. Okay, then draw it. I'll draw. This is the orbit. This is the orbit. How come it is orbit? Because, you know, there are 4 bones in the medial wall. Tell me which 4 bones are in the medial wall. 4 bones in the medial wall. Are you talking about the maxilla bone anteriorly? Yes. After that, I have the lacrimal bone behind that. Yes. Behind that, the ethmoid bone. Yes. And behind that, the body of sphenoid. Yes. Tell me the 3 bones at the floor. 3 bones at the floor. I think this maxilla bone is L-shaped contribution. Yes, it is L-shaped contribution. So this is maxilla bone. Yes, it is maxilla bone. Maxilla bone has L-shaped contribution. So not only it is forming medial wall, but it is also forming the floor. And which one was again L-shaped? The other bone which was L-shaped, we have described it here. Yeah, which one? The zygomatic bone. So zygomatic bone is not only from the lateral wall, but also the floor. Yes. I think in the floor there were 3 bones. Which is the third one? Third one was posteriorly here, and we told it is palatine bone. So a small component by palatine bone. Yes. Tell me the 3 bones in the floor of the orbit. Maximum contribution, maxilla. Minimal contribution, palatine bone, posteriorly. And additional contribution, the zygomatic bone. Zygomatic bone is also forming lateral wall. Who else is forming lateral wall? Lateral wall is also formed by this bone, which is greater wing of the sphenoid. And if you say greater wing of sphenoid is forming the lateral wall with the zygomatic bone, I think there's a fissure here. Yes, that fissure. Who's forming this fissure? This fissure is actually between the floor and the lateral wall. And who is at the floor? Maxilla bone. And who is the lateral wall? That is the greater wing of sphenoid. And where is the superior orbital fissure? Superior orbital fissure, I'll tell you. Superior orbital fissure is here. If you tell this is the superior orbital fissure, then what is it between? What is it between? I'll tell you that there is the lesser wing of the sphenoid. So this is lesser wing of sphenoid. Yes. And what is it doing? See, this is the lesser wing of the sphenoid, and it is having some opening called optic canal. When it is having the optic canal, it is having the optic canal when lesser wing was trying to fuse with the body of sphenoid. So lesser wing is trying to fuse with the body of sphenoid there. Yes. And when it is fusing with the body of sphenoid, there will be some optic canal for the passage of the optic nerve at the apex of the orbit. Yes, that is the apex of the orbit and the passage of optic nerve. And there you have the optic canal, which is opening in the lesser wing of sphenoid when it is attaching to body of sphenoid. And what is this fissure between? The superior orbital fissure. Yes. Superior orbital fissure is between lesser wing and greater wing. And it is between the lateral wall and the roof of the orbit. So you are telling that lateral wall is the greater wing sphenoid and roof is the lesser wing of sphenoid. I think roof, there is one more bone. Who is that? That is the frontal bone. So tell me the two bones at the roof. The two bones at the roof are frontal and lesser wing of sphenoid. Tell me the two bones at the lateral wall. That is greater wing of sphenoid and the zygomatic bone. Tell me the three bones at the floor. That is zygomatic bone and the palatine bone, and maximum is maxilla bone. Tell me the four bones at the medial wall. That is the maxilla bone, behind that lacrimal bone, behind that ethmoid bone, and behind that body of sphenoid. So body of sphenoid is medial wall. Yes. Lesser wing is the roof. Yes. Greater wing is the lateral wall. Yes. So sphenoid has three contribution. Yes. What is between lesser wing, greater wing? Superior orbital fissure. And what is between lesser wing, body of sphenoid? What is between lesser wing and body of sphenoid is the optic canal, a defect in the lesser wing of sphenoid. These are all MCQs. Each line is one MCQ. And what will happen if there is a blunt injury, blunt trauma to the front of the eye? Controversy, but remember, it is the maxilla bone which is broken, and some fluid will come into the maxillary sinus. So you want to say floor is broken? Yes. I thought the medial wall, ethmoid, thin papery bone broken. Yeah, that can also be broken, but first answer should be maxilla bone. So when there's a blunt trauma from the front to the eyeball, the breakage is for the floor of the orbit. Yes, maxilla bone. And then there will be some protrusion of the contents into the maxillary sinus. Yes. And which is the second bone which can be damaged? The medial wall of the orbit. There was ethmoid bone. Ethmoid bone is papery thin bone, so that can also be damaged, but the first answer should be floor, maxilla bone. And second answer, the medial wall, ethmoid bone, could also be damaged. Now we are talking about the iris muscles. There are two, sphincter and dilator pupillae. Understand that the radial arrangement of fibers are for dilator, controlled by sympathetic system, T1 sympathetic fiber. The radial arrangement is for dilator pupillae, controlled by T1 sympathetic fiber. It is adrenergic muscle, and that adrenergic muscle causes mydriasis, or what is called as pupillary dilatation. On the other hand, if you are talking about these concentric fibers, then that is the sphincter pupillae, and those concentric fibers, sphincter pupillae, is actually concentric fibers for meiosis, and that is actually acetylcholine or cholinergic muscle under parasympathetic system. So be careful. If you are talking about the concentric fibers here, if you're talking about the concentric fibers here for meiosis, then it is sphincter pupillae, the cholinergic muscle under parasympathetic activity. And if you're talking about dilator pupillae, which is radial arrangement of fibers, then it is for pupillary dilatation, mydriasis done by T1 sympathetic pathway. This is some basics. Now we can move further. These are smooth muscles, autonomic nervous system. And then you have to talk about the somatic nervous system. So somatic nervous system, which muscles you will talk about? The skeletal muscles, somatic nervous system. And you are looking at the right eyeball now, front view. So front view of the right eyeball, talking about some skeletal muscles of the eyeball. Yes, tell me the activities. You will see that there is a superior oblique muscle here. It is coming like this, so obliquely, so it is called superior oblique muscle. And then there is an inferior oblique muscle. Remember, the origin of the inferior oblique muscle is the floor of the orbit, and insertion is into sclera of the eyeball. It's a question. So inferior oblique muscle. Yes, inferior oblique. You're telling inferior oblique is running obliquely. Yes, like superior oblique is running obliquely. So superior oblique was running obliquely. Yes. And inferior oblique is running obliquely. Yes. What is the origin of inferior oblique? Floor of the orbit and insertion. See, insertion of all the muscles is into sclera because they pull the sclera and move the eyeball. So all these muscles insert into sclera to move the eyeball. Yes, all of them insert in sclera. But understand, inferior oblique is passing under inferior rectus muscle and then inserting into the sclera of the eyeball. So inferior oblique is passing under the inferior rectus muscle, inserting the sclera of the eyeball. Yes, what is it doing? That will find out what it is doing. It will pull the eyeball, of course. Contracting means pull the eyeball. But then there are 4 recti muscles also. What are the 4 recti? See, there is a medial rectus which will pull the eyeball medial for adduction. There's a lateral rectus muscle which will pull the eyeball away for abduction. There's a superior rectus muscle will pull the eyeball up for elevation. And there's inferior rectus muscle will pull the eyeball down for depression. So elevation, depression, and adduction, abduction. Recti are 4 recti, and they are doing such movements. What about the LPS? What about LPS? There is some levator palpebral superior. Yes, it has 2 parts actually. LPS has 2 parts. The larger is skeletal and it is supplied by third nerve, and the smaller is the Miller muscle, and Miller muscle is actually a smooth muscle, and it is, if you remember, superior tarsal muscle controlled by T1 sympathetic fiber, which will be compromised in Horner syndrome, leading to partial ptosis. This muscle is for upper eyelid elevation. You're trying to say that levator palpebrae superioris is a mixed kind of fibers. Yes, actually mostly it is skeletal muscle controlled by third nerve. But it is having a smooth muscle component, which is Miller muscle, the superior tarsal muscle. Superior tarsal muscle is for upper eyelid elevation and controlled by T1 sympathetic fiber. In Horner syndrome, T1 sympathetic fibers are compromised and superior tarsal muscle may be paralyzed and leading to partial ptosis. Why not the complete ptosis? Complete ptosis, because complete ptosis will be there if you damage the third nerve. So when we damage the third nerve, then there will be complete ptosis. Yeah, because major part of the LPS is skeletal. So third nerve injury will lead to complete ptosis. Yeah, almost complete ptosis. Maybe some Miller muscle may be still working, but this is major component. So this is some orientation. Now, this is about the muscles, names, attachment, some action, but you did not tell proper action. Tell me the proper actions. If you want to look at the proper action, then remember sin. What is sin? It's a mnemonic. Mnemonic. You give mnemonic also. We thought you don't give mnemonics. Yeah, mnemonics I usually avoid. They are dangerous things actually. Why? What is the danger? Danger is that you will remember the mnemonic, but you will not remember the expansion. That is the danger. So having mnemonics is a danger thing. You will have pseudo confidence that mnemonic will be remembered, but you will forget the expansion. So don't use mnemonics as much as possible. But some few mnemonics can be used, like sin. What is sin? Only superior muscles can do intorsion. Only superior muscles can do intorsion. But I have only 2 superior muscles. Yeah, you have superior rectus and superior oblique. So only superior rectus and superior oblique muscle can do intorsion. What is intorsion? Intorsion is, say, this is the midline of the body and this is the eyeball and this is the 12 o'clock position of the eyeball and patient is looking at you. So this is the midline of the body and patient looking at me. Yes. This is the midline of the body, means nose will be here. Yeah, nose will be there. And this is the patient looking at me. Yes. And now this is the 12 o'clock position of each eyeball. Yes. What is intorsion? Intorsion is inward rotation. What is that? Inward rotation. So you are telling intorsion is inward rotation, means 12 o'clock position will go towards the nose. Yeah, towards the nose. Inward rotation, intorsion. You mean to say when 12 o'clock position of the eyeball goes inside, intorsion. Yes, that is intorsion. So what if it is going outside? That is extorsion. That will be extorsion. Remember, this is intorsion. This is intorsion. Oh, you are telling that if the eyeball goes inside, this is intorsion. Yes. And if the eyeball goes inside, this is inward rotation, intorsion. Yeah, that is what we are telling. This is inward rotation, intorsion. Who is doing intorsion? Yeah, that's what. Only superior muscles can do intorsion. And which superior muscle working where? Remember, this is a superior rectus muscle, elevating the eyeball. This is superior rectus muscle elevating the eyeball and doing intorsion. Yes. So you are telling this is superior rectus muscle which is elevating the eyeball, elevation and doing intorsion. Yes. Then you will tell this is the superior oblique muscle which is depressing the eyeball. Yes, SO4. What is SO4? Superior oblique supplied by fourth nerve, trochlear nerve. Okay, SO4. Then what is SR? SR is 3, third nerve. Oh, SR is 3, third nerve. Yes. Oculomotor nerve. Yes. So oculomotor nerve supplies superior rectus. The name tells superior rectus, superior movement, elevation, but it is also intortor. Yeah, it is. And superior oblique is a depressor. Yes, it is a depressor and intortor. I think they are doing one thing common. Yeah, that one thing common is intorsion. Now, if you say one thing common is intorsion, fine. Otherwise, they are antagonistically working. Yes, they are antagonistically working because superior rectus is elevating and the superior oblique is depressing. They will cancel each other. So, when I use both of them, what will happen? If you use both of them, then the superior movement, inferior movement may be cancelled and one thing will happen. That means intorsion, inward rotation. Yes, that's what. What is the third action of these muscles? Third action of these muscles you want to know, then I'll tell you that the superior oblique is doing this movement. What is this? Taking the eye down, out and intorsion. So it is taking the eye down, out and intorsion? Yes. You are telling superior oblique supplied by fourth nerve takes the eye down, out and cause intorsion. Yes. What is out? Out means it is working with the lateral rectus, LR6. What is LR6? LR6, lateral rectus supplied by sixth nerve. Oh, lateral rectus supplied by sixth nerve, which is doing abduction. It is helping lateral rectus now? Yes, actually. So you're telling that DOI, downward, outward, intorsion movement, that is the movement of superior oblique? Yes, it is taking eye down, out and cause intorsion. And when it is doing intorsion, it is assisted by synergistic muscle. Who is the synergistic muscle assisting? That was the superior rectus. And when it's doing the abduction, it is the synergistic muscle. Who is the synergistic muscle then? That is the lateral rectus. Then I'll tell you one thing. What? That there will be a medial rectus also. Yeah, MR3, third nerve. Then it will be working with superior rectus. Yeah, correct. You are correct. That is correct. Understand? Three actions of superior rectus now. What are the three actions of superior rectus? Superior rectus, superior movement, elevation, that is there, and it is also intortor and helping medial rectus for ADD adduction. It is helping medial rectus for ADD adduction. So again, it is contracting the superior oblique muscle. Yeah, see. Superior rectus and superior oblique are antagonistic muscles except one movement, syn. Superior rectus and superior oblique are antagonistic muscle except one movement, which is syn. See, superior rectus is elevator, superior oblique is depressor. The superior rectus is ADD adductor and superior oblique is ABD abductor. They cancel each other if they work together. So if they work together, they cancel each other. Then what happens? Net movement, intorsion, inward rotation. Remember this. Now, once you have that idea with you, you are looking at the diagram and you can see superior oblique muscle taking, this is right eye, this is right eye, you see right eye. Patient looking at me, yes, patient looking at you. right eye. So superior oblique is taking the eye down, it is taking the eye out and is causing intorsion. And what is superior rectus doing? It is taking the eye inside and up and causing intorsion. So both of them causing intorsion. Yes. Actually, superior rectus working with medial rectus for a double D erection, and the superior oblique working with the lateral rectus for ABD, abduction. I think superior rectus and superior oblique are antagonistic. Yeah, they are. Also remember that superior oblique and inferior oblique are almost antagonistic. If you say superior oblique and inferior oblique are almost antagonistic, then one thing they will do together. What is that? That is helping lateral rectus for abduction. So superior oblique and inferior oblique are antagonistic muscle, yes, but they are doing one thing together, that is the abduction. Similarly, superior rectus, inferior rectus will be antagonistic muscle, obviously. So when the superior rectus, inferior rectus are antagonistic muscle, they will do one thing together. Yes, superior rectus, inferior rectus are antagonistic because one of them is elevator, and if you say one of them is elevator, the other is depressor, so of course they are antagonistic, but one thing they do together is helping medial rectus for A double D adduction. They help the medial rectus for A double D adduction. So like that, try to manage the activities of the muscle. It is difficult, and you can manage only by doing one thing. Practicing MCQs, many MCQs, practice lot of MCQs, and then you will become confident. Anyhow, let us draw the diagram. As you draw the diagram, this is midline of the body, yes, and this is right eye and left eye, yes, this is right eye, that is the left eye. So I think superior rectus doing this, yes, inferior rectus doing this, yes, but they also do that, yes, helping medial rectus there, yes. And all are supplied with third nerve. Yes, they are A double D adductors. And then you are telling superior oblique is a depressor. Yes, it is not only depressor, it is also abductor. It was helping the LR6. And it is antagonizing which muscle? It is antagonizing the other muscle, which is inferior oblique, but it is working with the inferior oblique for abduction. So you are telling both the obliques are abductors. Yes, both the obliques are abductors. Both the obliques are abductors and all the recti are adductors. So both the obliques are, you are telling both the obliques are abductors. Yes. And almost all the recti are rectus except lateral rectus. Yeah, of course, if it is lateral rectus, it will be abductor, but other recti muscles are A double D rectus. So this is something you can remember. Or you start with sin only. What is sin? Only superior are in tortoise. If you say only superior are in tortoise, then what are others? If you say only superior are in tortoise, then what are others? Of course, what do you think what they will be? Extorters? Yes. So you are telling inferior oblique is extorter. It will take the 12 o'clock position away from the midline? Yes. So inferior oblique is extorter. It is antagonistic to superior oblique. I told you inferior oblique and superior oblique are antagonistic muscles. So it is extorter, cancelling the intorter. They can cancel each other except one thing, that both are ABD, abductors. Are you trying to say inferior rectus is also extorter? Of course. And inferior rectus is antagonizing the superior rectus. Of course, they are antagonistic muscles, except one thing, that both the recti are helping medial rectus for A double D erection. So when I use both the superior rectus and inferior rectus, they cancel each other. Yes, they cancel each other, but one thing they will do together is A double D erection. So there are two intorter, two extorter now. Yeah, you know already the intorters. Only superior are intorters. So don't bother about extorter, because whoever left will be extorter. Maybe it is inferior oblique or maybe it is the inferior rectus. So both the inferior are extorters. Yeah, you can say both the superior are intorter and both the inferior are extorters. You can say that. But I am telling you, this is not the way to memorize things. Maybe this is one way, but this is not the way. Actually, you have to practice MCQs. I have only one advice to my students. Practice more and more MCQs.